Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast.
Tomorrow is opening day.
This morning, didn't have a great hunt. Deer didn't move like usual.
We just got set up in the middle of this bedding thicket. We've been saving this spot from the rut. I think it's a nice buck.
Boom! Hits a 170.
That was money. I think he's down right over there, 10 yards.
Whitetail Legacy Podcast, bringing you back to the hunt and leaving a legacy.
Baller rut.
You're listening to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast, the podcast for the legendary whitetails, and we got a legendary one coming up right here. We got a buck on public with a bow out of a boat. I don't know what else you could ask for a cool kid episode, man.
Right?
I'm all about this. This is
Sitka.
yeah, this is Preston Hall. Dude is solid about hunting whitetails. You can just, when you talk to a guy, you can tell when he's got his shit together, and this dude knows how to get it done. Said he has 5 deer over 170 already, and this one net 196 and 5/8. He didn't even say what it grossed. I mean,
No, yeah.
it's
Not
just,
even off hair.
I wanted to ask like how wide it was, because this is like uber wide.
Yeah.
I don't even know, but we get into this episode. We break down a lot of tactics that I didn't really think about that it's going to help me be a better hunter. So I know there's some in here that's going to help you be a better hunter. Huge shout out. We get a lot of messages. You guys are really loving this legend series. This is something we wanted to try out, and I'm proud to say it's something that's not going to go away. We're going to keep doing these. We got a lot of them lined up. Trying to break up the monotony and not make it all about giant whitetails, but that's what people want to hear. That's what people want to hear, and we really enjoy these episodes. So let's get into the people that make this possible and get into the show. Got the VIP veteran broadhead. We keep saying that, but
I was wondering if we can just say like veteran broadhead. You
VIP.
know? Like we should just say VIP.
Yeah, VIP. We should just start saying VIP, but VIP, Matt and Cindy, they
Rock
got
solid.
The veteran and the combat veteran. Word from Matt is a lot of people stepping up to the 125 combat veteran this year, so if that's something that you might be interested in. Interchangeable heads now, so you can get the 125 if you're interested. You had the VIP veteran broadhead shout out.
Yeah, this week's VIP. I'm gonna say we need to almost change this and just do the
VIP shout out.
Yeah, the VIP shout out. This week's VIP shout out is Veterans Creed Outdoors. This is kind of a special shout out from our friend David Cagle. He didn't ask for this. We're just doing this, because we follow David. He's with a new organization that he started by himself, and new beginnings from a passion that's just vested within David. He was with a different organization, and different paths come about, and David's on this path now. So he just has a burning desire for helping out fellow veterans, which David is a veteran himself, which is super cool. And I tell you what, guys, that page has been fairly new, and I think they've given away 2, maybe 3 hunts. I know at least 2 hunts, 2 veterans. And it's been super cool that, even though he's been, not on the best path, or kicked down, or everybody's vision's different, that he is still went over all them hurdles and
Still pursuing his dream.
Still is trying to help fellow veterans out. So give them a like on Facebook, follow them, and see the good in the world and the hunting industry.
Yeah, man. Shout out to you, David. We've been friends for a while, and you're always doing something for others, and that's something that some people don't look at, but we over here at WLP are trying to give you a shout out, man.
Yeah,
you
just trying to
deserve
highlight
it.
the positive,
for sure. let's get into Ingram's outdoor obsession. He's knocking out the bucks from this year. I've been seeing some posts. We got him in the secret Snapchat group, so we get the low key intel. But he's knocking out the bucks from this year. So be cool to get a couple back and see if we can have room in this what is this closet? What is this closet studio that we got going on?
I don't
here?
know what it is.
But yeah, hopefully we can chuck them in here somewhere. So people are like, man, they must have like $30 on the wall. No, only 5 and we're max capacity.
Only one's really taking up that
we got to put them on the floor.
Space.
ECW calls, all your custom call needs. He just had another make of the whiskey barrel calls. I just seen that. So if you guys are into duck hunting and want to maybe do a special gift for someone that's into duck hunting, that's kind of a custom deal. The whiskey barrel calls. I love that he puts the wood shavings in there and it just smells like whiskey when you open it up. So check him out. Exodus cameras. We're still running the cameras, still rock solid.
You got to know when them sheds drop. You know what I mean?
know. Like the ones we have out, like I went and pulled some of the other ones, and I don't even worry about the Exodus are still running. Like I'm not even worried about them. Like I know that they're still there.
No, I mean we need to check them, and it just gives you, well, I got 40% battery life left.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you're solid.
You're solid for a while. So yeah, they're still out there, and we're excited to come back in and then let you know how they did in this really, really cold temps that we've been having.
I would say it's been a warm January, so we're really getting into a little bit of lower temps than we had in January. So
yeah, so we'll be able to touch back on that in the coming episodes and let you guys know how those cams did in the real late season.
And this week again, before we get into the show, we just want to shout out that we were on the Last Breath Huntcast again, talking about another controversy, this time between the bow and the gun. You got anything over there, gun guy?
Oh, I love them. I kill them whatever I can. So yeah, we got to break down. There's a lot of hate, I think, between the gun hunters and the bow hunters, and we got to kind of go on each side and talk about how one side says stuff about the other side, and et cetera, and break down kind of how we feel about it. And I think it turned out really good. It's good to talk about this with other people, and I mean there is some strife there, whether people want to break it down or not. But the Last Breath guys aren't afraid to get in the nitty gritty and break it down. So
for sure, and I think it's another way for you guys to be able to learn about how Cody and I view things, and learn more about us as hunters and our different opinions on things. So if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. They're pretty much everywhere we are. So go out and check out the Last Breath Huntcast.
All right, let's get into the show. You guys are really going to enjoy this one. All right, we got a good one coming for you. We got Preston Hall from Arkansas, but he's in New York right now. How's it going tonight, man?
It's pretty good. How about y'all?
We're doing good. We just ran the heater for about 10 minutes, so it's nice and warm in the studio for about 25 minutes. Yep. But man, we appreciate you coming home. I seen your buck on social and just an absolute giant. So I had to get you on to the Legend Series and to let you tell your story.
I'm glad y'all have me. I'm enjoying to be here.
So you're a lineman by trade. You're up in New York, but go ahead and give the listeners a little bit more info of who you are and what you do.
I'm a lineman by trade. I work for the IBEW. I travel all over the country, work in various states, and I chose this trade many years ago when working locally as a union and wanted to venture out and make more contacts and see part of the country. And I've always been a big avid outdoorsman and hunter, and I like to hunt all over the country, and couldn't find a better job that let me travel around and scout around and get paid to do it, So that's where I'm at, and it's where I've been for a few years, and it's paid off well for me in the last several years.
Man, it doesn't sound like you need to travel much. There's right out your back door.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty cool that you get the, you're traveling, but you're using that time to kind of scout areas, and maybe you can make a plan to go back there. That's a good way to look at it. When I travel, I'm kind of just pissed and sitting in the hotel. I should be out there, doing more scouting. I did do some shed hunting.
You did.
Last year and trying to get that, but it's a good outlet to look as you're like, man, I'll travel on these guys, make money, and get to scout stuff that I might get to hunt this year. So
That's right. I've usually try to find me a state that I ain't hunted in or area that I like to hunt in. Then I'll look around in that area and see if I can find me a job pretty close by. That way I can go scout when I get ready.
This guy,
heck
this
yeah,
guy's got it
this
figured
guy
out.
is living the life, man. You got her figured out. So
Turkey hunting and whitetail deer is my passion.
heck yeah, man.
I try to pinpoint them and help myself out all at the same time.
Yeah, you can't beat that kind of lifestyle. We're deep into it too, and like I say a lot, I talk to people that aren't into it, and I'm like, I don't even understand like what you guys do. Like, what do you guys do for fun? We watch football. I'm like, cool. Like that ain't doing it for me. But let's get into the story here. You killed a buck called Big Boy, but like you said, you're hunting the big boys. So, but this is an Arkansas river bottom buck. I'm super jacked for this story because I know there's a lot going into it. Just go ahead and break it down from day one of finding this deer and hunting him.
Well, it's been about a 3-year quest. I've hunted the same spot, same area within a couple hundred yards since 2014, and have many good deer on camera and have killed several good deer out of that same area. And this one buck just stuck out to me when just a mainframe 10-pointer last year, and he had split brows. And I started hunting him pretty hard, and I hunted him several weeks at a time, and couldn't really get on him like I wanted to because I was working in South Florida at the time and the odd schedule. I couldn't just come home and stay home like I like to do during that time of the year, and it just didn't work out for us. I seen him a couple times, got lots of pictures of him, and just couldn't make it happen. And got in there after him this year, got several good pictures of him all year long. I'd come home throughout the summertime and the spring, and I'd go down there and I'd just sit till dark, half a day, and wait for him to come out in the field to see if I could see him, watch him, see what he turned out to be. And he turned out to be a giant this year. I mean, he got real heavy, got a lot of mass on him. He got a lot of width. His left side pretty well stayed the same. He only gained 1 point on his left side, and his right side just blowed up. He got his right brow tine blowed up. He got 5 points coming off of it. He got some stickers coming off of that side also. He just become an absolute giant. And I said, well, I got to get my ducks in a row and get this season planned, and I need to go home, about October, about a week or two before Halloween. I'll get in there on him and I'll kill him. And I looked up and that happened, I come home. I went and worked in Gilman, Illinois. I started up there in September, hunted a little while, run some trail cameras up there while I was working, and I seen some good bucks on some public ground I was on. Nothing that really caught my eye to get my mind off that big deer at home. So on the 21st of October, I come home for good. I told the work I was doing up there in Illinois, I told them I wouldn't be back not till after the first of the year for sure. So I went home the 21st of October, went in there and checked all my cameras, and started hunting. I hunted the 23rd and the 24th and didn't see him, hadn't had him on camera in the last 3 or 4 days. So I went over to another spot that I seen him a lot in and hunted over there on the 26th. Never did see him. Come down, went and checked my cameras at my other stand. Sure enough, he was in there at 8 o'clock on the 26th. I was sick then. I was like, man, I could have had him this morning, And it was a little bit of that early pre-rut, had a good little cold front come in and had a lot of bucks on her feet. But I was going to kill that deer. I wasn't going to kill another one until I killed him, And I started hunting him at the same stand pretty hard. I hunted in there every day from the 27th, from daylight till dark, all the way until this is the 27th of October. I hunted daylight till dark all the way until the 20th of November. And the 20th of November, I had only seen him 3 times from October all the way for a month. And I was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to get down and look around, check some more cameras, and see if I need to move or whatever. I went and checked some cameras, and he was on that far end that morning. And I stayed where I was at, come back in there and hunted. And on the 23rd, I was sitting there. I got there about an hour before daylight. About 7:30, he come through with 3 does and come right up there within 20 yards, same way he always come, traveled the edge of that little ridge, and never would stop, just constantly walking, just staying at a steady pace behind them does. And got on out of sight, and I kept sitting there again, and I seen him at 3 o'clock with them same 3 does coming back through, going back to that slough. And where I hunt at, it's pretty well surrounded by water. You got the river on one side and a big slough on the other side. And they just travel that little corridor back and forth in between the river and the sloughs. And couldn't make it happen that afternoon. I sat all the way till dark, and I went home, and I told my wife, I said, you ain't going to believe what happened today, but he was within 20 yards, and I could have shot him, but he was quartering to and wouldn't stop. And I didn't want to grunt at him, make him stop, and let him know I was anywhere around. I probably just lost my chance. You know, it's close as I had him all year. And I sat around there and thought about it all night. I said, I don't think I'm going to go in the morning early. I'm going to wait and go in there about lunch, because it was the weekend and all the duck hunters was out and about running the river constantly. And that always keeps the deer still till about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning. And I told her, I said, you want to go? And she said, yeah, she'll go. I said, well, I'll put you over there in that stand where I just seen you at, and I'll go sit on the other end. And you know, last minute come around, she didn't want to go, couldn't go. And I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and go. And this was at 10 o'clock. Well, I put in at the boat ramp about 10:30. I got down there at my spot about, it takes me about 30 minutes or so to get down to where I park at and walk in. I got down there and got up in my stand. I got 7 or 8 cameras from where I park at to where my stand is. And I checked those on my way in. I got up there in my stand and was going through my pictures, looking at them. And I reference back and forth to my pictures that I've got saved of him to see what days he come in there and what time on those days, and try to pattern him the best I can on a time frame. And I just happened to notice, I probably got my stand at about 11:30 or so, and I just happened to notice on top of my iPad it said 150. I was like, holy cow! I've sat here and looked at these pictures this long. I said, I better, it's getting right. It's getting prime time. I better pay attention to what's going on here. And I no longer turn around, put my iPad back in my backpack, and sat down maybe 5 minutes tops. And then here comes some does coming across that water. They was just wading that water easy. They wasn't in no rush. They was just slipping right through the water. And there's a big 10-pointer in there that's probably 160 to 165-inch 10-pointer that I've been watching pretty close. And I thought, well, if he comes up here and gives me a good shot, I'm going to go ahead and shoot him. And sure enough, he walked right there up underneath the platform I stand, and I'm hunting out of a climber stand, a summit, and I look through my platform looking at him. He walks out a little ways, and he's probably about 12 or 15 yards from me, and he's kind of quartering to towards my stand a little bit, and standing right in front of a trail camera. I had getting pictures of him the whole time. And I stand up, grab a bow, and draw back on him, and I'm just waiting on him to take that one step to the side, and I'm going to shoot him. And I hear something running in water, and I just draw back. I just look over on over my left shoulder, and I see a doe running through the water in that slough. And right behind her, I just see a big white cap, a splash running behind her, and I can see that deer's rack over the top of that white cap of water. And I was like, holy cow, that's a big boy. I said, this is gonna turn into something different right here, So I let down my bow and turn around and face their direction where they're coming from. And he runs in with that doe the same way that he's always been. And I don't know if that 10-pointer took those 3 does from him or what the case was, but every time I seen him, he had 3 does with him. And those 3 does was with that 10-pointer. And when he come through that water, he was just with 1 doe. And they walked in there. It's real thick in there where I hunt in the brush and stuff. And he walked right in there at the edge of that brush, walking the edge of that ridge. And him and that buck, that 10-pointer, they probably got, 15, 20 yards apart from one another, and just recognized each other was there, smelt each other was there, whatever the case was. And they just started grunting back and forth with one another. The big buck grunted at the 10-pointer first. And then the 10-pointer grunted back at him. And once he grunted back at him, it was on then. It just flew all over him. His hair stood up, his ears laid back, and he just went to tearing the woods apart. Everything around that he could grab, get his rack on, he was just slinging around, tearing it up. And I watched him rub one tree. He walked up a few more steps, 3 or 4 steps, and rubbed another tree. And that other buck grunted at him several times in a row. And he just turned and started walking right over there to him. And he stepped out right there in front of me. And I shot him for about 12 yards. And he ended up being about 15. I shot him right in behind the right shoulder, shot him real high into the right shoulder. And it come out on his left side and it's kind of in his armpit, a little bit higher than his armpit. And he hit the ground right there. I was shooting the Muzzy 100 grain 3 blades, and he hit the ground right there and spun around on the ground a few times. And I try and look at that 10-pointer. He's just standing there looking at what's all going on. That deer kicking around on the ground, and those 3 does, they ain't got a care in the world. They're standing out there about 25 yards from me, and they're just kind of looking around doing the same thing. What just happened, And they stand around there for probably another 30 seconds or a minute or so and just start easing off. Well, when they eased off, that 10-pointer just fell right in behind them and eased off. And I try and look down there at my deer, and he was facing away from me at that time, just laying on the ground. And I was scared to death that something he might get up and get away, and I not ever find him, get in the river and the slough. So I leaned down and find me a good spot through some tree limbs I could shoot, and I shot him one more time in behind the ribs. And that last shot, you could just tell, it got up into his cavity. You could hear a big sigh, and that was it. And I called my wife, and I said, I just shot Big Boy. She said, no, you didn't. I said, yes, I did. Right here out of that stand you was going to sit in this afternoon. This was at 2:44.
Wow.
And I told her, I said, you need to get in my other boat and come down there. And I said, I want some pictures of this deer. I think it's the biggest one I've ever killed. And she's like, I can't come down there and whatnot by myself. I won't never find you. And I said, well, go get Chad, which is my father-in-law, her stepdad. And I said, y'all come down here to the river and I'll meet you on the bank. You'll be able to see me and I'll take you in there to him. Well, I waited a couple hours and they finally got down there and we went in there and seen the deer. And just the excitement out of everybody, him and her and me, all of us. They all knew I was after that deer. Neither one of them knew exactly what deer I was after. I'm real particular on on stuff like that because I'm afraid if anybody knows or anybody finds out, it's going to be worse than it already is, And after it was all over, she's like, was that the deer you was after? I said, yeah. And I went to show them both of them pictures and stuff. And they're like, holy moly, I had no idea. And it just all come together perfectly. It couldn't happen any better. I don't think that if that other buck was in there, I mean, who's to say if I'd ever got a shot at him or not? Because he come in there the exact same way every time. He had been in there 3 times before that where I've drawn back on him. He come in the same direction in the same spot and took that same trail. And I think that other buck just helped me out. It was just all worked out perfectly.
Man, props to you for not just slinging it on that 10-pointer too early, man. That'd have been tragic to do that. And then you look to your left, you're like, oh, man.
Well, right there where I'm hunting at, it's if you second guess yourself, I just don't even shoot. If I look at it and be like, well, yeah, but no, I just don't even take a chance because I got that slough on one side and the river on the other side, and there's too many good deer in there to take a chance of not finding him getting in the river, drowning or swimming down river, and you not finding where he comes out or getting on the other side of that slough because it's real deep. I just don't take a chance unless it's perfect, And once I got him home and got him skinned and everything, I found out one of those blades on that Muzzy just barely cut the bottom of his spine. It was such a hard down shot that it went in right where his back makes the round, where it comes off the flat of his back and makes the round down his side. It went in right there, and one of those blades just barely nicked his spine and come out down low, and it got both lungs. It got the top of one and the bottom of the other, missed the top side of the heart. But come find out, I didn't even need to shoot him that second time, but I just wasn't going to take a chance.
I don't blame you, man.
Yeah.
I've shot one other big deer in there, and he was a mainframe 12-pointer. and I shot him kind of quartering away. And ever since then, I never found him. Another guy ended up finding him a few weeks later, and that deer crossed the slough on me twice, 2 different times. I had hired a dog to come in from South Arkansas and help me trail him, and he crossed the slough on me twice, and I never was able to find him. And another guy found him. I'm like, well, I'll never do that again. I'll never shoot at one unless I'm 100% sure that I got a good shot on him.
I would say it don't take long to, or very many circumstances to learn something like that. I mean, especially you get, big deer involved, like even on just, a good buck, like, we're out there, we're trying to do the right thing, and we want a clean, ethical harvest, and, you just want the animal to go down and it be over.
That's right. Yeah. If I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to get him, I'd rather not even shoot him, I'll take my chances of meeting up with him again or not getting him at all.
Yeah, I can agree with you 100% on that, man. And especially with you, with all that water around, that's something that we don't have to deal with. We might have a creek where we might be hunting next to a river, but you got giant rivers, sloughs, it just, that would be real hard to track a deer through that kind of stuff. So I 100% agree with you there. You got to make sure it's a real quick, clean, ethical shot to get it down as quick as possible before, like you said, it goes across the slough, and then you might find blood on the other side. But then if he goes across again, then you're hunting a ghost at that point. It's damn hard to find them. But
what I found out about them deer crossing the slough is most of the time when they come up out of the water, they've got so much water on them also, you won't find another drop of blood until you get out of his shaking area, where he's come up out of the water and he's shook off, and he's walked another good 20 yards before he starts bleeding again. And,
yeah.
It's hard to pick that back up.
I was going to say that's what I was going to ask is, the way that you describe that water is, they're just kind of, basically swimming across. So I just, envision, you're being able to see from the neck up. So, any wound that you're going to have from an arrow is going to be, washed away clean, saturated. And then, like you said, they're going to have to get up there, shake, get the blood flowing again. And I mean, that's got to be a tough task, in general.
Right. Well, that time of year for us, we get a lot of rain and the river backs up, them sloughs back up. But the part of the slough that they got to swim is probably not but about 50 feet wide. But you're talking 100 yards on each side of that slough is underwater, knee deep to the deer or more. Some of it's chest deep, depending on how far the water's backed up.
Wow.
But that's my favorite time to get in there. I try to hunt the water because a lot of them big deer, they'll stay around that water and in that water. They feel safe. They'll find them a little island to get on, or they'll find them a big root wad to get up on and get up out of the water, and they can see and hear everything that comes anywhere close to them, And I've watched many of them. People come in or come down from the river and park and spook the deer and them not even know the deer's there, and he'll come slipping through the water pretty close to me, and he won't hardly make any ripples. It's just wild of how stealthy they are, even in water.
Wow.
That'd be pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
I've been hunting them in a lot of spots, and there'd be ducks all out in the water, and you just see the ducks start swimming off, and you're looking right at the duck swimming off and looking that same area, and you can't see nothing. And you pick up the binoculars and look, and all you see is the chest and the top of the back of a buck walking through the water, and the ducks are just swimming away from him, And them ducks give them away a lot.
That's awesome. So you're going in on a boat. So I'm assuming, were you doing that for access reasons, or did you have to go in that way?
You can go in a few different ways, but boat access is the best way, really. And it always worked out for me because I always hunted that area right there with a southeast wind. And coming in with a boat, I can park right there and walk straight into the wind, and walking straight to my stand, the wind in my face, and not ever have to worry. If it changes around on me, I'll go in a different direction. I'll come in from the other side where the slough is, or there's different ways. But that boating in right there in that area is the best way for me to get in there and have success.
When you had first come back, back home and started hunting in October. You had said you'd went to this first location, checked cams, and he wasn't there. Was that where you had seen him during the summertime?
All different times. He had a very wide home range. I had 21 cameras out after this deer, and I had 19 of them in one small area. I mean, I'd go in there and check cameras, and my wife would ask me, why you got so many cameras so close together? I said, well, he's just hard to pinpoint. I'm trying to figure out his exact route, and the best way to get on him. And at all them cameras, there would be only 8 or 9 of them that I would get him on consistently. And some of them might not be 20 yards apart from one another.
Mm-hmm.
He just was smart. He took his own route and then figure out what worked for him, and he just never changed it,
We had that happen. We ran cameras, 60, 70 yards apart, and some bucks would be boom, boom, and some bucks would be boom and then vanish out of thin air. And you're talking about like a mowed trail, like directly to where you would think, like, would he go through this thick-ass brush, or would he go straight down right there and then hang a right?
Yeah.
At night, you know what I mean? And
we're talking 50, 60 yards tops.
Yeah, and never once got a picture of him on that second camera.
No.
So
I found out with him that a lot of the beat-down trails was the does that he was with, and he would always walk about 10 to 12 yards off to the side of where they walked. Them does would stay on that trail and just beat it down. He would always walk 10 or 12 yards off of that trail through the thicker stuff. And I actually, when I caught him doing that, I actually put 2 cameras on the same tree, one facing one way and one facing out the back of the tree. And I'd get the does on the front of the tree and get him on the back of the tree.
we talked about doing that a bunch. We were like, man, we need 2 cams here because we know that we're missing so much, you know what I mean? But it's just hard to dedicate.
I mean, and
it is. And I've always told myself, if it's good enough for 1, it's good enough for 2. If it's good enough for 2, it's good enough for 3.
I like your style, man. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we've talked about on here before, trail cams only tell you part of the story, and you go hunt a location and you see the deer move in a different way and you're like, didn't even get on cam, but there's deer here.
Yep.
I just seen 6 deer, none of them on cam.
That's
so,
right.
you think your spot's junk, but it's actually half-assed decent. And you're like, I need to pay a little bit more attention and not rely so much on my cams.
Yeah.
And I started changing this year. I started changing a lot of my cameras over to video on 30-second video, because there's one camera that was almost right under my stand. It's just two or three trees over from my stand, and I pretty well keep it on 15-second video all the time. And it takes good videos, and I have better luck at it like that, and I just leave it like that. And I was sitting there in my stand, and I watched these 3 does come through, and then I watch him come through. And I get down after I start heading back to the boat, and I change that card out and go home, watch that video. There's them does on there, but guess what? He wasn't on there. I said, I just watched him walk right by, and that 15-second video cut off right before he walked by. So I changed that camera to 30-second video, and I got twice as many deer that I ever had on 15-second. It was like 15 was just barely not enough.
Yeah, we did that. We finally switched to video mode, and it's a game changer. It takes a long to go through. To go through the videos. But you get those blank pictures. There is no blank pictures in a video. There's always something that eventually goes through there. You know what I mean? So.
Right.
We burned about a quarter tank of gas checking cams on a property for video mode.
Yeah, it takes a while to go through, but it's so worth it, and you get to see the demeanor of the deer, and on a picture, you don't get to see the whole story. So we'll see a deer he came in here, but then he took a hard right, 5 yards in. Right. In the picture, it looks like he's just going straight through, he's going to end up down here. But on the video, you're like, oh, well, he's actually he was going south and now he's going east. You know what I mean? So it's switching to video mode is huge, but you have to have a solid enough camera that is decent on batteries for 1, and for 2, that does decent video at nighttime. And that's the hard part. Video in the day is okay. The video at night where it's not blown out and grainy is tough.
Yep. And another thing video helps me with is try to figure out exactly what the deer are doing in that area. You can tell on video whether he's traveling, whether he's got something in mind where he's going somewhere, or if he's just kind of loafing. and feeding around. And if he comes back 2 or 3 times, all pretty close together, if the deer gets out of the video a little bit, you can still kind of see his rump, and he turns around and stops and comes back again. He's just in there moseying around and loafing and feeding. He ain't really no rush. He don't have somewhere else in mind. He's not just traveling through your spot. Your spot is actually home range to him.
We figured that out this year too on what Chaos. Every time you get him on camera, he's got a mission. We got a buck we named Chaos, and every time we get him on video, he's moving. He's got an idea where he's going. He's not just browsing, just chilling. He's got an idea where he's going. So that's a good point. We realized that too. We never brought it up on the podcast. When in video mode, like you said, you got a buck that's coming in. He's just kind of browsing, milling around. You're like, okay, he's really relaxed here. He's just kind of doing his thing, and if I feel like if you get a buck that's got that mentality of he's hauling, and you're hunting the next day, he's not even there. He's on a different property. He's done move. He's looking for a doe, or he's moved on, got an idea where he wants to go.
And when you do see him, you know what's about to happen. He's not sticking around. He's just going to travel through. So if it's going to happen, it's going to happen quick. So you need to choose your shot wisely,
Yeah, that's another good point. I didn't even think about that.
I
need to hang out with this guy for a week. I'd probably learn a lot.
If he just kind of hangs out in there and moseys around and he comes up there close and you don't get a shot, well, don't rush it. He might stick around for another 30 minutes. He might give you a half a dozen different shots to make it happen. You just don't rush it. But in your case, like Chaos, he's just traveling all the time, just going through. He's got something else in mind. When you see him and he's in range and you got a good shot, you better take it, because that might be your only one.
Yeah, I feel like that's the case with him.
Yeah, see, that's what we haven't done yet. We haven't seen him.
We haven't
had him in range.
2 years, man. The guy's a ghost.
But if you hung out with this guy for a week or just talked to him for a week straight, you'd have 3 trail cams on a tree.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
He'd talk you into it.
Yeah. We need to run 2 trail cams on a tree, man. We just need to invest a lot of money in trail cams. Yes. We'd actually start killing on deer, but
one thing I want to talk about is, your mental aspect going into hunting this deer. You hunted him for over a month, and, obviously you finally got it done. But, I want to talk about, your mental approach to this hunt, from November 5th through the 12th, for that week time range. How did you stay motivated to get up every morning and go after him?
Man, it's just what I love to do. It's just a passion of mine. I don't know if I could ever say, well, I'm tired of it, I ain't going. If I get that, I go somewhere else. I don't not go. I usually hunt every single day. I might not hunt daylight till dark. It depends on what the deer is, how they're acting, what the movement is. And sometimes I might not even go until 10 o'clock. But if I don't go till 10 o'clock, I sit all day. I usually try to do that. If I get in there real early before daylight, I'm after something that's coming through at 8 o'clock. But if he's not on my camera at 8 o'clock or earlier, I'm not in there till at least 10.
Yeah, I think that approach is becoming a lot more popular. More stories like this coming out, people talking about, especially during the rut, just like I said, that, November 5th through the 12th time frame, that 11 to 1, 11 to 2, that midday movement. Cody and I experienced that, out on public this year. We had a solid 125, 130 10-pointer come through cruising in on us at 1:15 in the afternoon, and most guys are packed up or just getting out to the stand for their afternoon sit, and that time can be very, very good if you're in the right area.
Yep. And especially public ground, 80% of majority hunters, they only want to put in about 6 to 8 hours. So if you take a guy that's got up at 4 o'clock to come down there and put his boat ramp in at 5 or 6, well, I don't expect him to hunt past 10, because about 6 hour mark, he's burnt out. He's ready to go back home, get him some lunch, breakfast, wherever the case may be, and come back for an afternoon hunt, which is going to be around 2:00.
Yeah.
And a lot of them deer, they've evolved just like everybody else, and they figured that out. They know how fresh the scent is in there, how long you've been in there, about how long you've been gone. And them deer, they listen to them boats. They're not scared of the boats by no means, but they've patterned the boats to the people just like we have the deer. I give them more credit than most people just because I sit there and I watch, and I just sit there throughout the whole day and just watch what happens and listen to boats go by and listen to people come in and out. And most of the time we'll have deer all over me, and I'll just watch how the deer react to them people coming in and out, what they do, how they react to a boat coming by, and that's what I look for as when I come in and out. And I've watched it many times of people coming in and out and boats going by and in and out, and the deer, wherever they're at, they'll just kind of get over to a thicker part of the brush, or they'll get behind a big tree and watch. They'll just stick their head out the other side, and they'll watch the boat go by, or they'll watch the guys walk by that's walking down the road, looking around, scouting. And once they go by, the deer just go back doing their own thing.
Yeah, that's, props to you for recognizing, behavior like that, being out there at the time, whether it be duck hunters or deer hunters, going up the river and, recognizing the deer behavior and, using that to your advantage. And like for Cody and I, we have at our public spot, they have early season access, and then they close it down to the lake. And, that adds like 3/4 of a mile to our access on top of, just short of a mile back to where we want to hunt. And, them doing that really lowers the numbers of hunters when it gets good. So, if you're willing to put in that extra work, you can be successful, but you have to be out there in order to do it.
That's right. Yep. And I don't know if y'all know much about Northeast Arkansas, but the rivers up there are all pretty small rivers, and they're not very deep, but they're just rough. They got a lot of trees in them. They got a lot of logs in them. And a 7-mile boat ride in a river like that is a really long boat ride. And most people don't want to make that ride. They might make it 4 or 5 times, half a dozen times, and they'll kind of get burnt out on it.
Yeah, I could see, man, you're out there at 4 a.m. It's cold. You're trying to get in there on a buck, and you're doing that, and then not like, when we're walking out, like when you get to the truck, you get to the truck. Well, this guy's got to load his boat, adjust stuff for the ride home, strap down his boat. Like there's a lot of work that you got to do even after you get done. You're taking a climber. So that climber, were you bouncing around trees quite a bit and just hunting in the same area, or?
I got several climbers. I got lock-ons all throughout that set of woods there, and I use climbers here and there. But right there on that ridge where I hunt at, I've killed lots of big deer out of that same tree, and I don't put anything in there that stays stationary. I take it in and I take it out because it's a really good spot. But the deer, they figure them stands out pretty quick, and
I've learned that deer figure them out, and also people figure them out. We've talked about like hanging sticks and leaving them, but I'm like, man, someone's gonna see these sticks and be like, oh, there's people hunting here. Like it's probably decent, So that's always in my back of mind. Like it would be so much easier if we just had sticks up. Like if you're using you're hanging a strap-on stand every time. If you just had the sticks up to walk in there, it would save you 30 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, right. But I feel like prepping the tree and making it look like no one's been there if you can, you know what I mean? Or at least not having the sticks where someone's back there like, oh, shit, there's already sticks here. I'll just throw my stand up. I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? I feel like you're doing the work for a lot of other people, too.
Found a gold mine here. Yeah. The sticks are here.
The sticks are here.
I've hunted down there since 2014, and I've only seen one person in there, and that was on camera. And I knew who he was, and I asked him what he's doing in there and stuff, and he was lost.
Perfect. You're like, man, I ran a camera back there for years. I ain't seen nothing good.
And you know that guy that's lost on camera, he's like, I'm never coming back here.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
He's
that's
like,
what he said. He
yeah.
said, I won't never go back in them woods again. He said, I get lost every time I go in there. And I said, and the whole time you ain't 100 yards off the river, you just don't know it, you know? He said, I got so turned around in there that day, I ain't never going back in there.
Perfect. Be like, oh, man, I ain't seen nothing back there for years. I just like the area.
Yeah.
That's what I tell everybody I know. Why do you hunt over there, man? I just like the vibe that's over there, man.
Ain't killed shit, but I just like
killed
it.
nothing. I just like going back there. So
And there was 2 other people that was after that deer pretty hard. And only one of them knew about the deer like I did, watched him, knew he was there all the time, and he actually hung out over there on their property a lot. And another guy just found out that the deer was there, and he was hunting him, but he didn't really know what he was hunting. You know, he was hunting that deer because he'd seen pictures of him from somebody else, but he's one of the, like normal deer hunters, you know, he's a weekend deer hunter, and he'd come in, hunt 2 or 3 days, and he'd leave, and he'd call me, ask me if I seen him, or text me, ask me if I seen him.
no,
one
man,
time,
ain't seen him for months.
one time I was actually sitting in the tree looking at the deer, watching him walk through the woods, and he texted me and asked me if I seen him, and that kind of weirded me out. I was like, well,
whoa,
I
this guy's
wonder if he's
watching me
over
right
here
now.
and he's looking at him too, you know, and seeing what I'm going to tell him. And I told him, no, I ain't seen him today. And,
I mean, the guy did not even tell his wife
No.
that he's chasing a giant.
No.
oh, I don't. Usually, if you find anything out like that, for me, it's already after the fact. It's done.
That's
Oh,
a good
man.
way to keep it, man.
Yeah, props to you for being able to keep that under wraps.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, my wife
could,
don't know the deer. Like, she knows, like, if we have a name for it, or, you know, I'm chasing the 12-pointer or whatever. She might look at the pic, but I mean, other than that, like, she don't care. But I've at least told her about it because I'm jacked up. You know what I mean?
You're like, I'm hunting big boy. He's big. I'm not going to tell you how big, but he's just big. He's just a big deer.
Right.
I tell her, I was like, you know, he's the 5th deer over 170 inches that I've killed, and I've told you, if I tell you that I'm gonna kill a big deer, you ought to know he's gonna be big. You know, that's all there is to it. And she's like, well, you know, sometimes I just don't know. And I got a 223-acre farm that's not far from there, from the river. It's actually right on the river, just a different piece of it. And I killed a deer down there on 17 that was 186, and she thought that deer wasn't big. You know, it was big, but it wasn't big. I guess when you don't deer hunt a lot, and you see elk and mule deer and stuff, you're like, well, that's not that big.
That ain't that big. I seen elk yesterday. That was 360.
Right?
I told her, I said, that's a big deer. You know, it was a whitetail. And when I see big deer at my farm, I tell her I don't hunt down there much anymore. I leave it for her and my boy. I was like, well, you got big deer down there at the farm. If you want to go hunting, well, she'll go hunt for 2 or 3 days, and she'll get burned out on it. She'll quit. And I said, well, that's it. You know, to be after him, to kill him, you got to stay after him. I said, 3 or 4 days ain't enough. Every deer that I've killed that's a good deer, I've been after him for 15, 20 days, 25 days, 30 days, you know, almost consecutive days. I said, it just don't happen. You got to put it together just as well as he's got to put it together, you know?
Yeah, man, it's hard. It's hard to. Props to you for picking a deer and going after it, man. That's something. Like I've done that and been successful, but there's always like me, like you're like that 10-pointer come by, you know, and that's what happens to me. Another buck comes by and I'm like swacker, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's like I've never felt like I had a deer pinned down like you had this, where you see him 3 times. Every giant that I'm hunting, I either see him one time and I kill him, or I see him one time I never see him again.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Well, last year I set my mind on him, you know, when I started getting a lot of pictures of him during the daytime and stuff, and moving around a lot with different does, different bucks. I told myself, I said, well, if I don't kill him now, I'll kill him next year, because I can't. My schedule I had in South Florida, I was doing. I couldn't just leave and hunt him like I wanted to, and I told myself, I said, well, I'm just gonna quit hunting him. I'm gonna leave him alone. I'm gonna let him have his area back, and I'm gonna kill him next year. And it happened, and I've been watching another deer for the last 2 years, year before last, and last year, and then this year. And this year, man, he's just an 8-pointer, mainframe 8-pointer, but he really blowed up this year. He's a giant 8-pointer. So next year, that's gonna be the one I'm gonna be after every day.
I'm friends with you on Facebook now. I'll be watching.
For sure.
I want that text message to be like, I got big boy. I'm be like, yes.
You won't see nothing from me on Facebook. Most times it's everybody else.
Nah, yeah, I seen that. I went to your page and there wasn't much there, but you had a lot of shares of other stuff. So hopefully when you get it.
I've had a lot of people take stuff from me on Facebook.
Yeah, man, we
So-
get that too. Pain in the ass, man. People, you post a picture and someone shares it on their page, no cred.
Yep, no cred.
And you're like,
Well,
come on.
I've had a lot of pictures taken from my Facebook and put on other websites, and people crop different things in them and put themselves in them and stuff. And so if it's anything for me, it's on my Instagram. You know, I don't put anything on Facebook.
Man, I don't. That's where I'm slacking. I don't follow you on Instagram.
Geez.
I'm gonna fix that right now. Is it Preston Hall?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Preston Hall 90, I believe.
All right, perfect. If the listeners want to follow you, that's where to get you at Preston Hall.
I
90.
killed a pretty good deer up in about central Missouri several years back, about 2013. He was a mainframe 10-pointer and had 2 good stickers on him. And I caught him on somebody else's page, and the guy had himself in there with him. And I asked him about it, and I sent him a whole bunch of pictures about it or of the deer and stuff. And there wasn't no doubt it's the same deer. I said, well, I won't never put nothing on Facebook again.
Yeah, man.
That's the end of that
Facebook's
deal.
savage.
I did that with the 193 I killed, and Cody claimed it and put his face on it.
We have so many people's faces have been on that deer
Oh,
just as
dude,
a
it's
joke.
crazy.
It's crazy.
And, you know, that's funny you said that, because that big deer I killed, my father-in-law was down there with me, you know, and was taking pictures and whatnot. And we got a picture of my father-in-law holding my deer. And I took that deer after I killed him down there to the river cabins where some of my buddies was hanging out that knew about him and stuff. And I had to go rub it in their face, you know, and show him to him. And the guy that lives across the road from them showed them a picture and said, "Hey, look at this deer my buddy just." And he looked at the picture, and it was my father-in-law and that deer. He said he didn't kill that deer. He said, "Yeah, he did. I know him, this guy, such and such." And he said, "No, that's this guy's deer right here." He said, "It's laying right there in that boat. If you want to go look at it."
That's how it goes, man.
I would say stuff gets out fast, man.
Shoot a big
Yes, it
buck,
does.
it gets out there. But
When I come out to the river, when me and my wife, my father-in-law, I got a little deer cart that I put them on, you know. And when I went to meet them at the river, I looked at my deer and looked him over, you know, and I left my bow with him right there and walked out to the river to meet them and got my clothes changed and stuff, because I'm real particular on my hunting clothes and my scent and all that. My clothes leave my scent bag, go on my body, walk to my stand, walk back to the boat, and that's all. That's the only time they get worn. It's from the boat to the stand and back. And I changed my clothes at the boat, grabbed my cart, went back to the deer and left my cart at the deer, and come back and waited on them by the river, and just pacing, you know, just anxious, ready to get the deer out of there, and kind of nervous somebody's going to see me running down the river, you know, and whatnot. And I get the deer out to the edge of the river and get him in the boat, and I hear a boat coming down the river.
oh man,
And I hurry up and jump in the boat. I ain't got time for nothing. He's just thrown in there. My cart's upside down. And I hurry up and jump in the boat, fire it up, and just take off fast as I can go down the river and get as far as I can away from my normal spot. And here come that boat, you know, and they seen him. And when they passed me, they were just, both guys in the boat was breaking their necks looking over at that deer, you know, and they slowed down and turned around and followed me back to the boat ramp. And next thing I know, before I get to the boat ramp, I got 5 boats behind me following me, wanting to see this deer. And I get to the ramp and park my boat there and go get my pickup truck. And when I come back to back my boat trailer in the water, there's all kinds of people standing around my boat, taking pictures of that deer, talking about him, you know, and whatnot. And before I could make it 15 minutes down the road, the deer was already on Facebook, and the Arkansas Game and Fish had done called me wanting to look at that deer.
wow.
Damn
And,
it.
I met them at the school, and they looked at him and thought, man, that's the giant. That's the biggest deer that's ever come off this ground, you know, and it probably will be the biggest. And, you know, like, we've heard a lot about him. We've seen a lot of pictures of him from the biologists and stuff. But we never thought anybody'd get him, you know. And one thing about it is that I don't think the deer's very old. When I look at pictures from last year of him when he was a mainframe 10 with split brows, I say 3.5, 4.5 every picture I look at him. And then his body size this year, wasn't very big. His hide wasn't very thick. He had thin hair. Real healthy looking deer. I don't figure he was a day over 5. He just had good genetics. And
Yeah, man. If they're gonna be big, I feel like they're big by 5. You know what I mean? I feel, but I mean, we had Clint on, and it was a 3.5, 180.
Right?
So man, it's hard to know, but till you just dig in there and send the jaw in. Someone needs to do over here.
I feel like you don't need a new bow, you don't need a new camo, new sight, or nothing. You just need a faster damn boat.
Yep. But that river hunting, I mean, that's the way of life to me. I've got a prime time farm. It's got good deer on it, got a lot of deer on it, but I just can't seem to pull myself off them river deer. I love hunting them river bottoms.
Well, it seems like you got her figured out, so I wouldn't.
Are a lot of the bucks down there as dark horned as this one was?
Yeah, most good bucks that are in the 160 plus range and hang out in them sloughs a lot and
down in the mud
in the dark part of the timber during the summer. They all end up pretty well chocolate horned.
Man, that's awesome.
It depends on how much time the deer spends out in the field during the daylight hours, is what I've been told. If he goes up in a field, in a bean field, and lays up, and beds up in a bean field during the summertime, it'll make his antlers a lot lighter. But if he hangs out in the timber until later in the afternoon and don't come out in the fields until, dusky, dark stuff, they'll just stay dark all the time. They don't have a lot of direct sunlight on them a lot.
That very well could be. I've never heard that, but that makes a lot of sense. I've always heard it's what they rub, but around here you're like, how can one deer be chocolate and one deer be the other? But they're all probably rubbing the same trees. We ain't got much variety around here.
Everybody says, "Oh, well, he was rubbing cedar," and the other guys just, rubbing
no one really
oak.
knows. But that makes more sense to me. Like, if he's out in the sun, they're going to get bleached out because you see an antler that's shed that's out in the sun.
Yeah, it's white.
It gets white, so that makes a lot of sense to me, and that can make sense why down there's really no ag, a lot of dense, thick timber, and they're just not getting a lot of sun. So
it's most definitely the summertime because in the spring and like July and August when they really start putting on heavy horns, and getting pretty close to finishing out, they all pretty well look the same. They all pretty well shed velvet the same. I mean, in a day or two's time, the velvet will be gone on a lot of your mature bucks. And then a week later, your younger bucks will shed their velvet. And it ain't, mid-September, early October that you really start telling if they're bleached out. And you might have, 10 or 12 or 15 different bucks on the same camera. And only the big mature ones that don't get seen a lot, don't get hung out in the fields, get caught out in the fields a lot. They're the only ones that's dark.
Man, that makes so much sense. I literally learned some stuff from this episode. Yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah, that makes really good sense to me why it is like that. I'm going to start telling people that. People are going to be like, man, you know a lot. I'll be like, yeah, this guy from Arkansas taught me that. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me then. And because those big deer, they're not going to go out in the fields and stuff. And
especially around here, you got a lot of farmers doing different things in their fields all throughout the day. And I mean, you'll see some good bucks, 8-pointers, 10-pointers, stuff, but that's them deer that ain't got no age on them. They might be 2.5, 3 years old or so, and they'll lay up in the bean field all day. If they get jumped up, they just get jumped up. But them big ones, they only get jumped up so many times till they change their mind.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, the last 2 years, I couldn't tell you what Chaos's color is because we can't see him during the daylight. All I see is white at night when he's on cam once a week.
He'll mess up. Because the first year that I found out about this deer, the big one I killed, I never had one daylight picture of him. And I had all kinds of pictures of him from like June and July all the way up until February when he started losing his horns. And never once got him during the daytime. And then the next year, I got about 75% of his pictures at night and got a lot of daytime pictures. And then this year, it was just a half and half. Actually, after October, about a week before Halloween, I started getting a lot of pictures of him during the day. And from September, August to September, all them was mostly at night.
Man, you must have been getting tighter and tighter on them. And
Yeah.
we've heard that a lot. Deer get older, they get tighter range, but then they get more, they feel like they got it, you know what I mean? So they might get a little more cocky to step out in the daylight, but they know the area that they can do it in, you know what I mean? And as long as no one's in there, it sounds like you're the only guy that's really in there messing around. And if you're solid on your scent control, they're never getting bumped or anything anyways. So,
well, I'm a firm believer on that, because there were several other people had pictures of him, and all the other pictures was during the nighttime. And I had pictures of him and another buck that he always run around with a lot. Almost every picture, all the way up until I guess it was about the 26th. Because when he come in there that morning at 8 o'clock, when I had him on camera on the 26th, that buck that he normally runs with was on that camera at 11, and they wasn't together. He come in there at 8, the other buck was in there at 11. And on the 21st, I had pictures of both of them together. So they just split up from one another within them few days there. And they was all during the daytime. I got pictures of one of them with his head down, and that big one with his head up, like looking up in the trees. And he's standing one right in front of the other, maybe 10 feet in front of my camera.
nice, man.
That picture. I mean, it's a beautiful picture. That's probably my favorite picture. Just good daytime, the sun shining right through the trees on them. It's just a good picture of them. Both of them.
I love it when you get so many trail cam pictures, and it just makes you want to kill that deer so much more that you're putting the pieces together and imagining the story in your mind, like, okay, why is he there? What's the wind? There's just so much you can dive into and learn. But man, this is a good legend episode, man. I'm digging this.
And 5 feet in my tree stand height, I think, made a lot of difference, because I had a 25-foot rope on my climbing stand, and I'd always climb up until I hit the bottom of my rope, and I'd stop. And I screw in my little thing in a tree and hang my bow on, and I screw in the other side where I hang my bag on. And I'd have does come through there and smaller bucks, and they wouldn't bust me and blow or stomp off or nothing, but they would stop in their track, and they'd look around, like they heard something or just felt something wasn't right. You'd see them look up in the trees and stuff. They just tell something wasn't right. Their demeanor totally changed, when they got up there within that 15-yard range. And right there where I'm hunting, that's your shot. 15, 17, you're not going to shoot over 20 just because of all the limbs and the brush that's in there. And I was like, I'm going to have to change something different. I'm going to see what I can do. So that same afternoon, I just took my stuff out of the tree and laid my bow across my lap and put my backpack on, and I went up another 3 or 4 strides. And I probably got up there around the 30-foot mark or 32-foot mark, and put my stuff back in the tree and hunted the rest of the day. And I seen all kinds of deer the rest of that day, and none of them acted like them deer in the beginning of the day did. They never come in and was walking good, then all of a sudden stop in their tracks like they smelled something or got a wind of something. Just their demeanor just didn't change. And I went to Orchland's. It's like a little farm store where I live at, kind of like Tractor Supply. And I found me a rope that they had in there that was 30 foot. And I tied that rope on my stand that night, went out and hunted the next morning, and I climbed all the way until I felt my bag pulling on me, come off the ground, and put my stuff in a tree. And ever since then, when I started hunting with that longer rope, I could tell the deer just didn't have no idea or sense anything was going on in there. Just by the way they come in there, would stand under your stand and eat acorns, and 3 or 4 deer that you never even seen would come out of the brush after the other ones were out there crunching on acorns for a little bit. And I was like, well, I never thought 5 foot would make such a big difference, but I don't know if it's the wind graph's different in that extra 5 feet or what the case may be. I don't know. But it most definitely worked.
We noticed that on public this year too, that we need to get higher.
Yeah.
We're kind of hunting in like a little bowl, where the only tree that we can get a stand in is. So we're like, man, we need one more stick. We need an extra 5 foot, because I feel like where the camera guy stand is where the hunter needed to be, and the camera guy needed to be higher. So we're gonna fix that next year. And we were probably from the bottom, we were probably 25.
Yeah.
But from where the deer were probably 20.
18. Yeah.
Yeah, a little heel they're on.
Yeah, we're in like there's a bunch of like little swampy little pits out there, and we're kind of in one of those, and that's where basically a cottonwood seed had fallen, a long time ago and grew a tree. And other than that, it's kind of like just overgrown pasture and little hilly. It's weird terrain back in there, man. When you're in the tree, you got to kind of grasp over. You're like, oh, yeah. Then you get on the ground, you're like, this is completely different than what I thought it looked like. If you just took a guy back in there in the dark and put him in the stand, and you're like, all right, you're going to walk in this way and then walk out, he'd be lost as hell. He'd be like, I ain't got a clue where I'm at. Man, well, we appreciate you coming on and telling us the story of Big Boy. Like I said, I actually learned quite a bit of stuff from this that I'm going to try, man. And it seems like you're really knowledgeable of whitetails, and I'm excited to follow you on Instagram and see what you got going on through the year. Yeah.
Well, follow me on Instagram, and maybe we can talk sometime next year, and we might get to do another one if I get the deer I'm after next year.
Hell yes. We always love that. Return legend. That'd be epic. Man, that was some solid legend content right there.
It wasn't bad.
Wasn't bad, man. This guy, like I said, I mean, he's got $5 over 170, and he's around our age. You just know when a guy's got his shit together, knows how to get it done on whitetails. And there's some tactics in this I know that our listeners can use to at least try and see if it benefits them. You know what I mean? But, man, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Like I said, we're going to keep these legend episodes coming. We really enjoy them. We get to learn a lot, and we get to meet a lot of cool people like this dude. This is a guy I'm going to follow and hopefully follow for the next 20 years and learn a lot from and see him crush some absolute giants. So get out there, pick up some sheds with your kids, take your dogs, leave a legacy, and Whitetail Legacy's out.